So, Jaydeep, welcome. It's a pleasure to have. Uh, very excited. And while we'll talk about the slow unicorn, and probably Rebel Foods is like the top 20 slow unicorns in the country. 12 years now, right? I think around June or July of 2010, when you landed in Pune and all that. So, but just can you just set the context for the audience? Can you tell us how big Rebel is now? And I know it's massively big, but it'll be good to hear about size, scale, proportion, people.
Yeah. So I think that's right. First of all, thank you for having me, Anand. And you've been uh, a backer for as long as we've been in the business. So thank you for that, especially.
Just got lucky, Jaydeep. Privilege again.
Yeah. So I would say our size can be described in probably three parameters. So one is our footprint. So we are now in about 100 cities across 10 countries. India itself, we are in about 75 plus cities, and there 20, 30 other cities across the world. We actually opened London a
Hmm.
couple of months back. So
Wow.
that's our. We have about 600 kitchens in these 100 plus cities.
Wow.
Um, so that's our footprint.
Hmm.
Second is the number of brands. I would say
Hmm.
uh, today we run from these kitchens about 55 brands across the
Wow.
world. Out of those 55 brands, about 20 are our own brands that we built, started and built, and then the rest are partners, brands we licensed, and a few brands that we've acquired in the last few years. Some of these brands you guys would be knowing, like Behrus, Faso, Zavel Story. These are our brands
Hmm.
that we built, and
Hmm.
then Smoor from Bangalore is a brand that we own now,
Yeah.
and lot of you may have um, been
It's
to a Smoor lounge and things like that, and it's been a
yeah.
favorite brand of mine for a long period of time, and now
Hmm.
happy to say that we own that brand, and then there are a few others in the pipeline, really household names which should become part of the Rebel portfolio. So that's the second piece.
Hmm.
The third is, I would say, the number of customers we touch every month.
Hmm.
So today, we touch close to 3 million customers every month, and
Okay.
that number is growing every passing day.
Hmm.
Um, so that's where we are today, and we've been growing at 100% for some years now, apart from the 1 year in the middle during
Hmm.
COVID. Um, we've been we've been growing at a pretty steady clip over the years.
Awesome. And Jaydeep, in terms of context, global level, now, of course, you are a global company now. Any cloud kitchen of similar size or comparable size?
No, we are. First of all, we actually don't call us as cloud kitchen, because then it's like saying Amazon is a warehouse company.
Okay.
So we are actually an internet restaurant company. So we build
Okay.
restaurant brands.
Okay.
Um, and cloud kitchen happens to be our warehouses, our
Hmm.
infrastructure.
Okay.
Um, and then the model that we pioneered about 6 7 years back, which is multiple brands on the internet from same operating system.
Hmm.
We are by far the biggest in the world. In fact, we've now seen pitch decks around the world where they say they are the rebel foods of that particular country.
Oh, nice.
Um, One of them we actually invested in, and there's a company in Colombia
Huh.
now, now also in Brazil and Peru and Mexico, and we've recently invested into that company.
Got it.
Um,
Awesome.
their pitch deck said they were the rebel foods of Latin America.
Nice. Nice.
So,
That's a
so,
good verb to own, right?
so, Jaydeep, some people have taken your concept and taken it to the extreme end. So, very recently, we came across on Twitter that uh, there is a kitchen in Bangalore which basically sells 400
Right,
different.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. It broke the internet. I think that piece of news.
yeah,
No, that's a good hack.
Yeah,
Jaideep, it's been like what 2010 onwards, 12 years now, right? And interestingly, the last 5 4 5 years, you would have added like I'd say like 90% of your revenue, 100% growth for last 5 years at least since 2018, I believe, right? 100%
yeah,
plus growth, right?
yeah.
And how does it feel to be like the top 20 slowest unicorns in the country?
Actually, we never thought about it, the slowness of our journey, before
Yeah.
you pointed out, to be honest. So,
Hmm.
um, I mean, we were just busy sort of building things.
Hmm.
And I think, actually, I am quite proud to be slow because, all our lives, people admonish us for being slow. There is no,
Hmm.
prize for being slow in Olympics.
Yeah.
But when it comes to sort of building real world moat,
Hmm.
um, which then becomes your primary defense for many decades, almost
Hmm.
into a century. If you look
Hmm.
at all the companies that built pioneering categories, either on the internet or even before that,
Hmm.
starting from Disney to Amazon, all of them have been slow unicorns. Like if you look at their stock prices, they never moved for like 10, 15 years and then suddenly exploded. That's because I think number one, it takes time to build real world things like, technology stack, supply chain, kitchens, warehouses, and all of those
Also
things.
slower to iterate, right? It's not just building. You have to build, iterate, build again. So it's a
Yeah,
full cycle,
absolutely.
which in real
So
world
by
iteration will
definition,
be faster. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And by definition, these are companies that people didn't understand for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So, people say that you should be willing to be misunderstood for a long period of time. And that's very important because when you're misunderstood, that means nobody is copying you. That
Hmm.
means in your industry, funding is not coming in truckloads. That
Yeah.
means you don't have like well funded competitors all around. So you are in the quiet, doing your thing, building your thing, iterating, experimenting without like 15 well funded competition breathing down your neck. And that's
Yeah.
a terrific place to be in. And on the contrary, companies that become fast unicorn, I mean, in those industries, people just put a lot of funding and, suddenly there are like 10 competition. And these are advantages of being slow, understated, behind the scenes, and things like that.
Yeah, there are advantages, Jaideep, and it's personally it will be very difficult to handle. Probably because you're based out of Pune and not in the regular Kurmangla HSR layout circuit. Because if you meet a normal founder, the peer pressure of I mean, bulk of the people are taught how to become the fastest unicorn, right? Regardless of whether they are in the real world business or in a software business. So how do you keep yourself motivated, or how did you stay away from whatever was going on in the rest of the world?
and to before you answer that, I want to add one small question along with it is that so you might be content because you have a vision and etc etc, but you also have a team which is also like has aspirations, because in the market people are becoming unicorns in 6 months. Their stock ESOP options becoming very valuable very quickly, plus liquidity happening, right? So in that environment, how do you make sure that the key people are well incentivized, they continue to believe in the vision, and you are able to hold on to them?
Yeah, great question. Not that, I had all the answers all these years, but couple of things like, I find there are a lot of parallel to building a business, between building a business and climbing a very tall mountain. Like for example, if you want to climb Everest, there is a saying in mountaineering which is climb high, sleep low, which means that you climb, get to an altitude, but then you come back a little bit and sleep lower than that altitude so that your body acclimatizes to that height. And
Hmm.
this is why climbing Everest is a slow business. Nobody has climbed Everest in one push. It takes 45 days, up and down, iteration, like four to six camps, etc. The only mountains that can be climbed fast are the smaller mountains. So, if you tell your team that you are climbing Everest
Hmm.
and you are not climbing, Mount Abu,
Hmm.
then the expectation is set pretty much there. Everybody knows that we are climbing Everest and there is no fast path to the summit of the Everest. So I think the vision has to be very big. Like people need to know that they are climbing a tall mountain. And
Awesome.
once that is like impregnated in their mind that okay, I'm climbing a tall mountain, which will mean that I have to climb high and sleep low, which will mean that there will be times you'd be gasping for air and we have to come down and resuscitate and get our body to the right acclimatization and then make the next push. I think all along we had the vision that we are creating a new category on the internet. Last 20 years of internet, retail got disrupted, entertainment got disrupted, hospitality got disrupted. But restaurants are still like McDonald's is a $200 billion value company. They're still largely offline. There is no internet restaurant in the world. And we have the opportunity to become that. And
Hmm.
this we realized, some 4 5 years back, and we painted that vision that we are after that big Everest. So it doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as we do the right thing and take the right amount of time and so on. I mean, if you look at our senior management, they have been here for 10 years, so I've not lost, like, we recruited about 8 people back in 2012 to run the company. Out of those, six are still here. The two that went out, they're building their own Everest. So they have, and I am a small investor in both their companies. So I think we have done well in uh, selling the vision of building something really enduring and big. As long as that vision is there, how does it matter whether you're taking, like, it doesn't matter whether you're climbing Everest in 30 days or 35 days. You are in any case not going to climb it in 10 days. So I think, you know having that vision, like really large vision, is very important, I feel, for yourself. I mean, I had to convince myself that many times that we are going after this very very large outcome. And then I kept talking about it, and then after some time, these people, they started talking about it to their teams. And attrition in our company is like really low. And this is probably one of the reasons why people stick around, and they're willing to stay put for a long period of time.
Jaydeep, uh, I know that it's a fabulous analogy, right? I mean, for the audience, Jaydeep has climbed the base camp twice, I think, right? Everest base camp.
Yeah.
And you actually went higher this time, right?
Yeah, but I've also climbed a few mountains at
On
different
few
points.
mountains this time, right?
Not
Yeah.
Everest, but yeah, few
Yeah.
others.
So, but Jaideep, having said that, right? I mean, there was a period in the first 5 6 years where the clarity that we are climbing an Everest, the vision was not there. You sort of on the trek to the base camp, right? And you didn't have the sight to the Everest, and the goal was not clear, right? And that's a tougher period when so if you just want to talk about that, like what were the downs when you're preparing, you know that maybe you're onto something, and sometimes there may even be self doubt where you have a doubt yourself plus others around you have a doubt.
Yeah, I think you are right. In the beginning, we were not very clear in terms of what that mountain is.
Hmm.
Um, but I think there are two things. I read somewhere. There was this voyage that happened sometime back. I think one of the Scandinavian countries where they were recruiting people, and they said that we only want people who are willing to accept that they may not come back.
Oh, okay.
And you know in the beginning, I had actually recruited people like that, not saying that they won't come back or something like that, but
Hmm.
like, you know So if you remember, and Anand, maybe you had seen that email that I sent back in 2012 to all the
Yeah,
groups
yeah.
that I knew.
IIM jobs.
Yeah, where I
Hmm.
clearly said that if you are, you know, wasting your time making slides, changing the world one PowerPoint slide at a time, or selling soap or things like that, here is an opportunity to come and do something which you can call your own, like you know run a function, start a city, start particular departments, build it on your own, because we don't have a better answer. And you would find like massive autonomy, and I stuck to that, and the entire company stuck to that. Our number one value out of the seven values that we really take very seriously is ownership.
Hmm.
And I think in the beginning that got us through. Like people, there was a self selection. So, like we got people on board who are willing to do the hard miles and build things from scratch without knowing the answer, uncertainty. So that got
Jaideep,
us.
today I know, like, this was phenomenal that you thought of this and you selected these kind of people. Today it's the reverse. When people get money, and you did this after funding from Sequoia, I believe, after Series A, right?
Yeah,
Today when people get funded, the first instinct is to prepare a JD with a lot of attributes, and actually, as you'd expect, try to go for the best people in the industry, which is most expensive people, right? And people who have a proven track record in the same industry. Whereas you said, doesn't matter wherever you are working, whether you have any experience in food industry or not. If you want to do something of your own, want to demonstrate ownership, and you're bored with your current job, and think your talent is getting wasted, come and join us, right? So you went for people who were completely from different industries, right?
yeah. And I didn't go to campus because in campus people are still like starry eyed about Goldman Sachs and McKinsey.
Yeah.
I mean, people get that bit of itch or frustration, whatever you call it, after a year or two outside, you know,
Yeah.
after graduating. And that was the group I went after.
Yeah.
So people who saw the real world, and they knew that not everything is what they were supposed to be, and they were itching to do something. So I scratched that itch a little bit, and I think
Yeah.
that was, and you were right. And I think over time, I mean, we've made ton of mistakes. I don't want to like claim ever that whatever we've done has worked out, but I think broadly speaking, in the beginning of a
Hmm.
startup, you need people who are willing to be that group, like accepting the fact that they may not come back. I mean, metaphorically,
Yeah.
that everything is uncertain, we don't know what's going on. That's most important. That attitude is more important than experience. In fact, experience is a problem, because then you've seen in an industry how things are happening for 20 years, and here you're actually trying to change it.
Jaideep, you want to give an example of Shashank, the whole truth, the founder?
Yeah, yeah. So exactly. So Shashank came on board with us, and he was running the people function for us. I mean, he never had anything to do with people, but then he was a brand manager at HUL.
Yeah.
But he looked at the people function like a marketer. So he connected the dots between marketing and creating a cult, kind of a so you need people who could actually connect the dots. And the guy was brilliant, of course. And as all of you know, that he runs. Many of you may know that he runs the whole truth, and the way he's building that company is phenomenal.
Yeah. And before that, that function you tried to give to somebody from the industry, and which failed
Yeah,
miserably.
which failed miserably. Couple of things, I think we got also the wrong people.
Hmm.
Um, but as the company matures, like then you would need to find some experienced people to work on things that don't need disrupting. Like for example, finance. It's there is
Yeah.
no disrupting finance. You have to have your governance in place, and you need to run your controls
Hmm.
like a clockwork. And you get a guy who actually understands finance. You don't want to like rediscover the discipline of finance
Yeah.
yourself. So
Yeah.
but that should happen, a few years down the line, when you build your DNA. So the finance guy you attract also has that DNA,
Hmm.
in addition to being an expert in finance, technology, product. So where you need like specific functional knowledge, um, that becomes important as you grow and as you become mature. And today, again, I mean, I think we mistimed a few of these things. We hired people later than we should have. But today we have a good mix of the old timers who are holding the DNA under the cultural fort, so to speak, and a couple of people who joined over the last few years who again subscribe to that DNA, because that is a no compromise thing in our company. There are like three bar raiser interviews for every post, cultural
Okay.
bar raiser. But they also bring in their substantial years of experience, especially in functions where you need that experience. So it's a
Hmm.
good mix, and eventually you get to that mix. um, I think to scale to the next level.
Awesome.
So,
This is the experiment that I ended up doing in our previous company where we worked together. Except that we had a lot of good quality people, similar profile. We didn't make much out of the company though.
Yeah, but you made, I don't know, 20 entrepreneurs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um,
By the way, I made far more money by investing in Rebel than I made in my own company. So,
Thank you for that. But I think Brain Visa had that, your company had that, entrepreneurial sort of kick that all of us
yeah,
got. And
yeah.
I learned this from Brain Visa, that you need to, let people own their destiny and do, without breathing down their neck, etc.
No,
So,
and interestingly, all of us bred in that culture. If you look at Supam also, I mean, the man doesn't even have a Twitter handle, right?
yeah,
So he's the founder of three unicorns, not one.
yeah,
Global
yeah,
Bees, Express Bees, and First Cry, and rarely gives an interview,
yeah,
uh, press interview, nothing, no noise,
yeah.
and probably again I would say again a slow unicorn,
Slow
not
unicorn,
a
absolutely.
unicorn, right? So yeah,
so,
Madhukar
so,
is saying.
so Jaideep, one question which comes in mind, right? So you started in the food industry, the food tech industry. You are one of the first guys, right? You also got funded, right? From Sequoia and then subsequently from other investors, right? And as we know that you also had multiple soft adjacent pivots, right? So you started with roles which was offline, then you went online, and then one thing's led to another, and then you had a brand. But while you were doing that, in your side there were companies which were getting built, right, on on those capabilities which your company had, right? For example, you were doing delivery on your own in 2012, right, with your motorbike things, and then when Swiggy was getting created and the Zomato also pivoted, wasn't there a temptation to basically jump in, because you had the kind of investors who would have backed you for that, right? Had you basically said in 2015 or 14 that, hey guys, I have a big organization, I have the experience, right, and I also want to play in the market, which Zomato did, right? And so why didn't you get tempted to do that? What was the thought process behind that? And any regrets over there?
Actually, no regrets, by the way. The reason I don't have a regret is that there is no Swiggy of US. Rather, there is, Swiggy and Zomato are probably DoorDashes of India, or whatever you call it, or maybe not. But I actually feel that, um, I mean, this is not to demean anyone or anything. I think these guys have done a phenomenal job of creating a massive ecosystem in India, and that was their, you know their DNA, I would say. Because if you think about it, though everything is bucketed under food tech, but I believe Swiggy and Zomato are actually logistics tech companies. If you think about their DNA, the DNA was moving something from A to B. Um, and that is great. As a DNA, you build something, you build all your expertise around it, and that's why you move on to grocery from food and
Hmm.
to something else over time, because you are sweating your core, which is the capability of moving things from A to B. Our DNA was also always making food.
But Jaideep, I'll cut you here.
Sure.
Swiggy did try to do cloud kitchen, and so did Zomato,
No, they
and then
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
and if you look at some of the other companies in the other sectors, right? People have moved and tried to do something which is working, right? When you have a certain kind of investors behind you, and when you have certain amount of surface area which you have created over the years, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be something else, right? So why were you
So,
not?
see, I would say we always wanted to be in the food business. We always wanted to make food rather than deliver food. So making food came before deliver food for
And the
us.
decision was a logical decision or a passion decision?
Yeah, that's a
I
very
think it
important.
was a passion decision.
Okay,
All
got it.
right.
Um, like sticking to what we understood, what we were passionate about. We were always about reimagining the restaurant industry, and that, like, doing logistics would be saying, okay, we are climbing Everest, but let's abandon that and let's go to North Pole.
Hmm.
That kind of a situation. And then, not that we never discussed, especially our investors talked to us about it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There was a talk about some reverse merger of yet another delivery company and all that happened, right?
yeah, absolutely.
14,
But
15. Yeah.
we resisted that, and we said we stick to our original mountain. And I think it was a passion decision. It was not about where the TAM is bigger, or where the you know where purchasing power is bigger. All those mathematical discussions. In fact, 2 years down the line, Swiggy became a unicorn. Much faster than us. Uh, so people might have thought, okay, we missed the bus. You are right. We had the delivery capability before Swiggy.
Yeah.
So, but we were willing to, honestly speaking, it never felt like that we missed something, and we should have gone down that path, and we would be richer faster, and things like that. We were like, we are climbing this mountain, let's stick to it.
Awesome. And that takes a lot of self-belief, patience, and sort of staying away from all the bubble and all, because apart from everything else, right? Your board will still discuss what's
I
happening
think
next.
I think the other things which are also needed on is clarity, self-respect, self-esteem, right? These things are also important to hold on to uh, the decisions which you have made in the past, right? And continue to build on that, right? So Jadip, I was probing you on this because we are seeing that the path which the non-pivot path which you have taken, or a pivot with a lot of insight, right? That generally is playing out in multiple companies, right? Across
I'm
some of the
sure. Yeah.
companies
Yeah.
as well as outside, and that has been a very interesting observation which we have done in the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Hey, Jaydeep,
I'm
however,
sure.
you did make a few hard pivots, right, over the journey. And I mean, I remember us talking about Fossos as a brand. For the longest time, you said we are Fossos, and we are a brand for young people, right? People who are young, staying away from their families, and that's our brand. And however, at some point, you pivoted to Rebel, Cloud Kitchen, and sorry, Internet Restaurant model and all that. So there were a few hard pivots. Can you tell us about like two, three key pivots that you made, or key strategic changes you made, and what went into the thinking? How did you arrive at saying, okay, now this is how I will go forward? I don't think bulk of it was driven by the board or anything. It was largely you coming and saying, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. I would say there have been three such moments. I mean,
Hmm.
there are many, but three big moments come to my mind. So one was deciding to go on the internet from the high street, and that was And I give the credit to firing that thought in my mind to the Sequoia global CEO at that point in time, Doug Leone. I mean, I was in a conference where he was speaking. He said, founders' primary job is to remove friction for growth, for growth,
Awesome.
and
Very well said.
that stuck to my mind. And at that time, our biggest friction was high street rentals as a percentage of sales. And
Hmm.
I was like really thinking about how do we remove this friction, and but at the same time our online sales were growing, delivery sales were growing. So we did a survey of our customers and asked them, have you been to our outlets? A lot of people said 70% plus said they have not been to the outlet but
Hmm.
still ordered food. So this is like 2015, 14 and 15, so it was already starting. uh, so that got us to this place where we said, okay, if people are okay doing that, why don't we get out of the high street and just put a kitchen? And I mean, these things are called cloud kitchen now, but the back then it was just a kitchen. And so we did a pilot kitchen in Marol in Bombay, and it worked. Suddenly, we could afford a larger space. People were happy working. The product improved, and everything's kind of fell in place in that particular location. And the rent came down drastically, and things like that. So that was, I think, one moment. And then
Hmm.
we went, once that worked, then we went down that path of the kitchen route, and shuttered all our high street locations. The second one, I think, came from, again, a customer insight, which is we launched a few other things under Fasos, like, launched a biryani, launched a pizza,
Hmm.
and we saw that nobody is buying those things from us. And then we realized that in food, there is no multi cuisine famous restaurant in the world. In food, a brand is basically around a product. Starbucks is coffee, Domino's is pizza, and McDonald's is burger, and things like that. There is no world famous multi cuisine restaurant, right? So we experimented saying, let's launch the same pizza under a different brand.
Hmm.
And we saw traction, and we realized that, okay, this is how customers view restaurants. They believe a restaurant is an expert in one product. That's why McDonald's cannot sell salads, even if, even they tried for last 20 years, but uh, they've never
Yeah.
succeeded in that. So that was the insight where we got to understand this customer psyche, that we can make many products. Like McDonald's used to own Chipotle for 10 years, nobody knows it, right?
Hmm.
Like completely different product, different things, and all of that. So we said, okay, we know how to make food, and we have the infrastructure, supply chain, and all those things to make different types of food, but we cannot sell them under one brand. And
Hmm.
this is also the time we realized that food is the only category where people move between value to luxury, single serve to group serve all the time. Everything else in life is either you're flying first class or coach,
Hmm.
driving a Mercedes or Maruti, not at the same time. But with food, you go to a 20 rupee chai and go to a five-star hotel, sometimes on the same day. So we realize that we have an opportunity, because we do not have a signage in front of our kitchens. We have an opportunity to use the same kitchen to cater to different missions in a customer's life by using different brands.
Hmm.
So that was the insight that basically fueled our company. And we went down that, and we said, okay, we don't have to replicate the technology, don't have to replicate the supply chain, don't have to replicate the kitchen, culinary expertise, but we can launch different brands which will, target different missions in a customer's life. So that was the big insight. So
Hmm.
that got us to, sort of multi-brand,
Yeah.
um,
This was around 16, 17,
16,
16,
17. Yeah,
16, 17.
that time.
Yeah. I remember discussing with you in the Powai in the parking garage while,
Yeah.
yeah, while you finished off one packet of cigarettes. So
I don't smoke that much anymore.
uh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and the third one I would say is that when we realize that now that same concept can be extended to brands that we don't own. Like during it happened during COVID, when
Hmm.
a lot of brick and mortar store shops that closed down, they came to us and said, okay, you have the network, can we put our brand into your kitchen and do the delivery sales? Because their physical locations are not working out because of COVID. And we started with gingerly with a couple of brands, and that worked out. And we said, okay, now we basically built an operating system like Android or iOS, on top of which anybody can build an app. In our
Hmm.
case, a restaurant. So
Hmm.
so we opened it up, and then we onboarded more brands, etc., etc. These have been, I would say, the three big sort of semi pivots, or whatever you call it. We don't call them pivot, we call them insights and inspirations at different points in time, which got us down this path.
Yeah. Oh, Jaydeep, you talk about building a real business, but all your analogies are of software. Huh?
Yeah,
Yeah, operating
maybe.
system, Apple App Store.
Also, Disney is the company that we get inspired by the most.
Mhm. Hmm.
And which probably would give us the inspiration for our fourth light bulb moment, which is Disney Plus. So we launched our own Disney Plus, which is a food court on the internet, about a year back,
Right.
and that is doing phenomenally well because we solved a few customer problems that were not solved hitherto. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Very interesting. And what's it called?
it's an app called Eat Sure.
Yeah.
Uh, and I mean, I don't conscious of time, I can go on that. But
Hmm.
we realized another customer insight, that when you order food, like five of you in a room, today we order based on whoever has the loudest voice, and say, okay, aaj Chinese khana hai, to everybody order Chinese.
Hmm.
There was no option for everybody to order different things, because if you do that, the delivery will happen differently. There'll be different delivery charges because they're all coming from different restaurants.
Right.
In our case, we saw people ordering a biryani from Beirut, and a pizza from Oven Story, and a dessert from Naturals Ice Cream, all together in one order. And
Wow.
that is propelled this particular use case. Like, for example, you want a biryani, but you also want a coffee with it. Today you can do that on Eat Sure. One delivery, single, it
And
comes
what's your
together.
average order value? Like,
It is quite high. I mean,
quite high.
it's 1.5 times the others. It's
Wow.
like it's like if you go to a super mall, there are individual restaurants, but there is also a food court. A lot of us end up in a food court because, as a family, we want to eat together, order from different places. That is the insight that got us to this route, and it's I mean, early days, but the signs are awesome.
No, this is phenomenal, Jaydeep. I am a firm believer of this model. In fact, uh, we couldn't invest in one company, but we were exactly looking to do this, right? Where you basically create a layer just below the restaurant chains, and you kind of combine those orders, and so this becomes very good if you are basically owning the licensing the brands, right? That company was
Yeah.
there, but you have your own brand, so you can
Own
basically,
brands license is exactly like Disney. The
yeah,
Disney Plus works because
yeah,
Disney owns the content,
yeah.
either through licensing or by acquiring or by creating their own. And in food, which is the most differentiated consumer product ever, owning the right content is probably the holy grail of winning that war, like in entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a very good analogy because, like content, you have to continuously keep innovating in the
Yep.
food also, right? Because otherwise, it becomes monotonous and people get
Yep.
bored, right? So therefore, you have that luxury, and you can basically keep on innovating and introducing
Yeah.
new
I
brands.
also like the idea of licensing brands because it helps you benchmark your own brands and also, gain from the innovations each of these brands will keep doing, right?
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. Also, it's a market structure point. Like, if you think about size of the market and the extent of fragmentation, the markets that are large but very fragmented, there it's easy to build your own brand.
Hmm.
But the markets that are oligopolistic
Hmm.
but large, there you would rather license an established brand to fight the incumbents, because, like, in burger, we now have the India license for Wendy's, world's second largest burger brand. There was a discussion internally saying that should we build our own brand, but then we realized it's an oligopoly. McDonald's and Burger King, 100% of the market. So to break that, it'll
Yeah,
take us 10 years. So it's better to license. So I believe that whether to do your own brand or license or acquire should be an outcome of this thinking uh, of market structure for a particular category.
yeah. Amazing. Jaydeep, to come back, right? Tell us. You're talking about seven principles that the company is founded on, right? Tell us a little bit more about that and how these evolved. If you have any anecdotes to share about, some principles which you sort of fell back on to take some tough decisions throughout your journey.
Yeah. So I think we started with, I think, two, like long
Hmm.
back. The two were being customer obsessed, and second is ownership.
Hmm.
Over time, we added a few more, like, for example, innovate and challenge the status quo. Um, Make every penny count. These were the two that got added over time, and then three more got added over the last couple of years. One is grow people and care for their career. Third, that was the fifth, and then the sixth was always operate at the highest standard and keep raising the bar,
Hmm.
which is which is what we need to do at this point in time. And then the last one is think big and long term. So, and I think these are something that we co-created. It was not like one of us just thought about these values and said, okay, these should be the values. Because whether you are conscious about this or not, every company has values.
Hmm.
They get built, you know
Yeah.
like reputation.
Hmm.
So they get built. Your job, I believe, to identify those
Hmm.
and then bring them to the fore. And I think we tried that quite a bit. There have been many meetings where, so one of our values is this customer value is called, we always start from customer and then work backward. So customer first, work backward. This is one of the values for Amazon also, by the way. So there have been meetings where people would say, let's do this. But then someone else in the meeting will say, but is that customer first? And that question creates a pin drop silence in all our meetings.
Hmm.
So things don't move unless it crosses the bar on being customer first. So, like for the last few years, whatever new thing that we have done, it always started with what we call a PR FAQ. Again, a practice that Amazon follows, um, which is you know, before coming up with a new idea or offering, we write a press note that a customer would read,
Hmm.
and then we once we agree on that, that may take 1 month, 2 months, sometimes it took 6 months, because we don't agree, as a group, that okay, this is the right public relations statement that or the news report that the customer would be excited about. And once we finalize that, then we work backward and say, okay, what all we need to do to get there, instead of saying that okay, this is a great idea, let's launch it and we'll see whether the customers would take it up or not. um, so it's thinking about the customer first and then working backward. This has become quite a bit of a, like, it's quite ingrained now in the company. Every, like, even this each show, before we launched it, we haggled on that PRFAQ for like 4 months.
Oh, okay.
And then we said, okay, now what do we need to do to get there, and things like that.
Jaideep, you slipped one principle very silently, make every penny count. Right? I just,
Yeah.
for the sake of the audience, I want to recount an incident where you broke your back in Bombay. And, we talked about you moving around in auto rickshaws in Bombay. Right? And I said, you'll break your back unless you hire a car because the roads were really bad. This is around rain time, around June, July. And you actually went to the hospital. You were like bedridden for about a few weeks. So has some of that changed around making every penny count, because you were a well-funded company even then, right? and and has, because sometimes I felt that while you were doing the right thing for the company, it was important what you did, right? And probably a lot of your personal personal sacrifices and personal behavior drove the company culture. But in the end, probably it really just was too painful, not
Yeah.
essential. Yeah.
See, I think over time we figured out um, a filter on this, which is anything that is not adding value to the customer is a waste.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, you can you are driving to airport and you need to be in good shape. So you can choose between an auto rickshaw and a sedan and an SUV.
Mm-hmm.
So and this is personally I follow. I don't take an auto anymore because that will impact my well-being, which will eventually impact the customer. But I don't need an SUV.
Mm-hmm.
A sedan is good enough for me.
Hmm.
So um, so I think that, like, putting that thing out there, that whatever you are doing, every employee, wherever you either in kitchen or somewhere else, if you see something that is not adding value to the customer eventually, then
Hmm.
you just drop it.
Hmm.
And because that's a waste, but you should not push it to the extent that it finally starts affecting the customer, like, you know delivering in a cycle rather than in a bike, for example. Maybe a bad example, but
Hmm.
maybe delivering a cycle is cheaper, but it's
Or
but you are not
pinching
reaching the customer.
in packing material, for example, right? I mean, those kind of things.
Right, absolutely. Like, good packing material, you can be, conduce there and use like bad material, but then it impacts the customer experience. So
No,
that's
Jaydeep, I
the
mean, to be honest, I think, like 4 years ago, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Paytm, he came down to Bombay, and we were planning to drive together, right? And I said, I was in his office near the airport, and I said, why don't you pick me up? And he actually came in a Maruti Desire sedan, right? And this is like
yeah,
after the company was actually a massive unicorn already.
yeah,
So
yeah, totally.
So, it's been fabulous talking, Jaydeep. We can go on. It's been 1 hour. I think we should wrap up. Uh, Madhukar, any passing comments? Parting comments, sorry.
So, parting comments. When are we seeing the IPO? When is it happening?
um I think we'll be ready next year, and
Okay.
then after that, we'll we'll try to do it when all conditions are conducive, but we should be ready next year.
Awesome. I mean,
Awesome.
really looking forward to it, Jaydeep.
Yeah.
That's also the time when I think both of us will be touching our 50th year, you
Right.
and I.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, yeah, yeah. What are your plans, Jaydeep? You see yourself running the company next 10 years, or any plans to actually spend more time climbing mountains?
Honestly speaking, I have not, put a lot of thought around it. But I think if I don't do it, what will I do? I mean, I can go off to a mountain for 6 months. That's fine. But what will do after that? So,
We,
True.
uh, something I need to do something. So, and the job is not even half done. So I'll see.
you can always become a VC.
No, no, Jaydeep, you were supposed to join India Quotient as a partner, and I think your team objected, so you started giving us less time, if you remember.
Yeah, could be. I
Yeah.
think I'll make a very bad VC.
Oh, welcome to the club. You will fit in very well with us. You will be perfectly in the right place. Good company.
Uh, there is nothing called bad VC, by the way. So,
Yeah. No, we can see for Gyan and all, we can always listen to people like Doug Leone and Michael Morris and all, right? उसका problem नहीं है ना
Right.
तो
Absolutely.
amazing. Yeah, thanks a lot. Will let you
Thank you.
go.
thanks, Yadi.